Welcome to my lecture. This is my final part of the project that is my doctoral degree. And as you see, this lecture is presented in partial fulfillment of the requirement for the Doctor of Musical Arts in Trumpet Performance with the supporting area in Arts Administration. I did want to delve in these topics because I've been professor in these two universities, one of them for 20 years and the other for 12 years. So, and after a period of time, I started realizing there was something that was missing in the teaching process in Chile. So, the question is why I want to do that. So, I was watching that there is a narrow collection of trumpet literature, the trumpet in the curriculum. We have the curriculum is one of them is more than 30 years old, so we really need an update on that. And there are new pedagogical trends that evolve, and there is a necessary reflection of the use of technical and conceptual approaches to the learning process. That's the thing that I want to delve in this lecture. And also, there are new pedagogical schools also, as I want to explain later. And through the use of the internet, the use of multimedia, creation of work as art, for which I'm really thanks to Professor Mark Wolfe, because his study includes that as part of the requirement, and to spark the that artist which is inside of all of us. And sometimes with the practice of the instrument, we can a little bit isolated of the area. So that way to express through artwork, I think it's something really important to consider in this curriculum. And there are devices designed to work out muscles involved in the performance. So this is part also of this lecture, because I found many students that there are talents, but you know the scientific way to explain the bell of that explain the ratio on which part of the students that are involved in the course are really skillful, are really good, and part of the other side are not so good. Some of them are not really good at all. But the majority of them are the hard worker, and those guys who really are interested in succeed on the career need special treatment sometimes, because they really long to succeed on their career. So that's the reason I want to speak up a little bit about that. So the purpose of the whole study is the necessary reflection on the use of the technical and conceptual approaches to the learning process, the review of the trumpet curricula of the University of Chile and the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile, and then identify relevant pedagogical studies for the trumpet pedagogy. It's part of this project. And categorize online pedagogical material. Since now students are really connected with the material which is online, I did explore in my research what is going on in the multimedia, what is going on in the internet, what kind of thing we can take advantage of from that source. And the last part is to suggest an updated model of curriculum for both universities. This is the part that it's not so relevant, but it is important, because to change the curriculum in the university, you need a whole new process that it doesn't involve just my idea, here this is the new thing. That project will involve all the brass faculty of both the university where I work there. So the procedure for this lecture is presented under the reflective account, so why don't do this? And presenting the review of the trumpet program of the University of Chile and the Pontifical University of Chile, for which I want to just I'll let you know just about the conclusions about that, and the analysis of some pedagogical material that I found interesting to say in this lecture, although the document includes more material that one that I'm going to present you here today. The analysis on the trumpet pedagogy and trumpet methods and product design to strength embouchure. That's something that I really want to show you, because here I have a lot of devices. It's kind of tricky how many in the market you can find, but sometimes you are overblown by what are those for? Would they work, wouldn't work? So that is something interesting for me to explore a little bit more. I don't have the answer, but I want to make the question from that, if that works or not. And suggest an update model of curriculum for both universities. That will be the last part of this presentation. So the teaching process in the music performance. In my 20-year career as a university professor, I have seen a wide variety of approaches to the pedagogical process. During juries, we colleagues do not always agree with each other about the right pedagogical approach for each student. Usual topics encompass sound quality, technical skills, musicality, expression, rhythm perception, dynamics, and tessitura. Although professors are distinguished performers, boundaries between objective and subjective issues are not always clear. This introductory account is intended to clarify and identify important concepts that are common in the teaching process. It is my belief that teaching the arts is one of the most exciting experiences in the realm of education. Traditionally, arts have been taught by masters that have a studio where they explain to students general concepts about their discipline and their work. After this, the master teacher gives individual lessons, at this point becoming a professor of their discipline. A professor that teaches musical instruments have a reputation of as relevant musician that plays as soloist, as member of chamber music groups, as collaborative musicians, or as members of ensembles like orchestras, symphonic bands, folk groups, pop music, and jazz students usually enroll on these studios of these professionals, assuming that the great performance and professional experience means better teaching for them. The history of music tells us about how some of the greater composers like Mozart, Beethoven, and Brahms had a student on a regular basis. The history, however, does not always say if they were as good as professors, and they were good composers and performers. Neither mentions if they were using a technical or conceptual approach to those emerging and antagonist forces during the Industrial Revolution at the end of the 18th and beginning of the 19th century, when they're teaching or performing their music. Although teaching and performing are two activities that seem similar, they come from two different branches of talent. The former is related to the left side of the brain, which involves logic, language, and analytical thinking. The latter is related to the right side of the brain, which is best at expressive and creative tasks. Arnold Jacobs, a renowned and influential brass pedagogue and a tuba player who made his career in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, states that teaching is different from performing. Quote, "When you teach, you are primarily receiving information through your sensor system going inward to your brain, into your brain. When you play, you are using psychomotor pathways where you use messages that are going outward to the effectors." End quote. The scholar Frank Campos, on his book Trumpet Technique, states that teachers rely on their personal experience, training, and intuition to solve the problems that come into the studio each day. He also warns us that not every artist can teach. On the other hand, according to the popular web portal higheredjobs.com, search committees from music departments seek professionals with a strong mix of artistry and pedagogy for the position of artist faculty members. The These professionals must bear a solid foundation in instrument technique, performance, repertoire, pedagogy, musicianship, and recruitment skills. It is assumed that the students expect that these high-profile professors will help them to overcome problems related to performance and ultimately help them succeed in their art. As I mentioned before, in the teaching process, the boundary between objectivity and subjectivity is not always clear. However, they both have unique pedagogical characteristics that enhance the musician's performances. Faculty members usually recognize the combination of these performance concepts, denoting in some cases the lack or excess of technique, which is objective. In other cases, they cite a lack of musicality, which is subjective. By oral tradition, professors have come to assume that these two visions represent technical and conceptual schools. I want to be more specific about this issue, since the understanding of these two concepts will be relevant for the suggested curriculum on these two universities. The two teaching schools. An analysis of trumpet method from the last 60 years, published by Carl Fisher, editions BIM, Hal Leonard, and Alfred Publishing, demonstrates that the main pedagogical approach to trumpet teaching has been based on fundamentals. This vision is an objective or technical approach to the pedagogical process, which offers an easy understanding for both professors and students. For example, Carmine Caruso, in his musical calisthenic for brass, states that, quote, nearly 200 muscles come into play when a wind instrument produces a sound, and it's the coordination of these muscles that I want to direct through this book, end quote. He also suggests 7 ways to address the most common physical problems in performance: tensions, stumbling, overblowing, range, balance, wet lips versus dry lips, and attack. Caruso's book does not speak about music at all. He only offers a technical or objective process to play brass instruments. As a result, his book has been a great source of idea on how, when overcoming technical issues, it is possible to become immersed in the conceptual language of the music, so you get to a different level. In an opposite view, Vincent Sikovic speaks about the conceptual approach to develop artistic skills. Quote, a model to imitate, solid physical skill, learning a new concept or skill require constant practice and letting go, end quote. On the other hand, Arnold Jacob describes one of the most relevant contrasts to both teaching models, saying, quote, the lack of musical imagination in the musical endeavor is the #1 problem in most cases. You find that those students who crowd their brains with how to play the instrument from a technical standpoint are not able to play music from a musical standpoint. Want to learn first how to play music, and by doing so, learn to play the instrument, end quote. According to the concepts already presented, it is possible to see as 2 approaches to the teaching process. One of them focuses on the knowledge of the body and physical concepts, and the other focuses on the mental image or will in order to accomplish a musical goal. Both schools are completely compatible, and professors use either one depending on which one works better for a student, as well as in their own practice. However, in order to thoroughly understand the elements that are involved in each school, I will delve in the most relevant characteristic of each school of teaching. The technical school bases its pedagogy on the 5 main senses through which humans perceive the world: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. Although these are the traditional known senses, there are others that are also related to the performance process. balance and acceleration, temperature, kinesthetic sense, pain, and time. Moreover, there are internal receptors that allows us to sense in the pulmonary stretch, esophagus, pharynx mucosas, suffocation, blushing, swallowing, gastrointestinal, and the chemoreceptor trigger zone in the brain. The technical or objective school is based on the sense of sight, hearing, and touch. The kinesthetic sense becomes essential to memorizing the muscular movements that create the habit of playing a musical piece. Trumpet literature in this area offers a lavish amount of technical books that cover topics like articulation, slurs, intervals, multiple tonguing, pedals, tessitura, orchestral excerpts, etc., etc. Claude Gordon, for example, states that there are many theory books on brass playing that can and have confused many students. He introduces his trumpet method as, quote, a series of exercises with instructions on how to practice so that the student may start at one point and arrive at an accomplished goal, end quote. Regardless, schools have to address the process by which information is encoded, stored, and retrieved, memory. At best, our brain can encode, store, and retrieve the information. At best, we can understand, make decisions, and perform our instruments. The interaction between short-term and long-term memory is crucial in the learning process. The multi-store memory model proposed by Atkinson and Schifrin, that I want to show you here on the screen, is a good representation of this psychological process. On the other hand, the technical or objective approach related to the body has been considered a reliable school by professors who use this pedagogy in their studios. This pedagogy is based on the sum of knowledge acquired through an empirical process from the long lineage of trumpet masters. This knowledge has been corroborated and supported by the advance of scientific development during the 20th century. Since then, it has been possible to take a close look at many aspects related to the human body during performing. For example, it is possible to see tonguing movement through X-ray camera, to visualize lips buzzing, to work out muscles of the embouchure, and to work out fingers, all for pedagogical process. All these approaches offer a more objective conceptualization of the pedagogical process, since it is possible to measure, quantify, and evaluate most of the actions involved in a performance. On the other hand, the conceptual or subjective method represents the alternative method used by professors. This style of long-standing pedagogy, which is really long, focuses on the ideas and concepts to acquire musical goals. The technique process is not as important as the final result. Technical issues are overcome by the strong concept of the music that is created in the mind. The more students get involved with different musical styles, the more students acquire strong musical ideas. As previously mentioned, the most renowned pedagogue of this school was Arnold Jacobs. According to the scholar Louis Lubriel, his pedagogy was based on the art form of music, by which vivid mental concept of tone, articulation, and phrasing were crucial elements to evaluate aesthetic consideration during performances. These concepts avoid complicated technical explanation about how to play wind instruments. Mind over matter, leading with a musical idea, was the concept coined by Jacobs in performance practice, suggesting that musical ideas spark motor areas of the brain, creating specific muscular movements to acquire a musical goal. On the screen, I have a Lubriel summary of Jacobs' characteristic pedagogical approach. the mental approach to brass performance as applied in the concept of song. One, in the development of oral skill, pitch recall and recognition. Two, in the development of conditioned reflexes for brass playing. Three, in the understanding of the function of the fifth sensory and the seventh, motor cranial nerves in brass playing. B, the correct use of breathing functions as applied in the concept of wind. One, in the understanding of the use of diaphragm in brass playing. In the understanding of the misapplication of breathing functions in brass playing. Rubiel also emphasized Jacob's teaching related to emotions, mood, and style, thereby allowing a pedagogical approach with mimic storytelling. Jacobs and Sikrich agreed that the role of musician is to tell a story to the audience, drawing on sound, articulation, rhythm, dynamics, tessitura, and phrasing. On the other hand, Jacobs also states that teaching is a complex and tiring process. He suggests that professors must be aware of the endless problems that may arise during teaching, and they should experiment in order to lead the pedagogical breakthroughs that fit the students' particularities. An important idea suggested by him is about the professor-performer correlation. Both actions were depicted as two different hats that cannot be worn at the same time. Jacobs suggests that many successful artists fail during the show as soon as they start analyzing their own performance, just like they do when they are teaching. He called that phenomenon paralysis by analysis. In a similar pedagogical way, Jonathan Harnum recommends watch and learn. Through this imitative process, he says that since it is not always possible to see master trumpet players live, it is helpful to watch videos of them visualizing mood, posture, attitude, and way of playing. Mimicking is a learning tool broadly used by student and professional performers. I would say that it is necessary to create more studies on this topic since there is a lack of published material aiming to understand in a better way what might be another pedagogical option. The conceptual school has been determinant in the education of brass players who are capable of performing complex pieces portraying human emotions. This pedagogic line is similar to those used in voice, string, and keyboard instruments, pedagogy that carries a long-term tradition of musical history, as I mentioned previously. So, the conclusion of this chapter is that there are two major approaches for the teaching of trumpet, technical and conceptual. There is a conflection of boundaries that distinguish one from the other. And there are strong approaches to the learning process from each school. And there is an acknowledgement of innovative pedagogical approaches to the learning process from each school. The next part is related to the review of the trumpet curricula at the University of Chile and the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile. And I will speak briefly about this since I want to keep focusing on the areas that I consider relevant for the pedagogical process. So the curriculum is structured and under objectives, content, activities, methodology, evaluation, reference, repertoire, all of them under an annual regimen. On the other hand, the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile, the curriculum is structured under course account, general objective, contents, methodology, evaluation, and bibliography. All of this in semester regimen. So the conclusions here is that both universities are the two major Chilean universities that offer musical studies in trumpet. only bachelor degree. The trumpet curriculum is outdated. This university offered initial muscle studies through conservatory, pre-university, and studios include the students from both phases. University of Chile offers a smaller amount of pedagogical material than the Catholic University, and both institutions should include up-to-date pedagogical material. So the review of topics for the trumpet curriculum. This chapter will explore a handful of teaching methods that have emerged in the last 50 years and which are reflected in key publications that have appeared during the same period of time. The idea is to outline a variety of pedagogical approaches forward by prominent scholars in the field of which to base future analysis. Although the views presented are valid for introductory conservatory level music studies, the analysis of suggested approaches will focus more on the teaching process for undergraduate and graduate level music majors. The trumpet pedagogy, we'll skip the first one for timing purpose. So I want to speak about the search for quality sound. Technical approaches to producing quality sound all include having a mouthpiece that fits the player, the right horn, correct embouchure, mimicking the sound color of steady long tones, like for example, the piano, pedals, and the use of various bassing methods designed to get full bass from the lips. The conceptual aspect of producing quality sound includes imagining the desired sound, vocalizing the sound before playing it, and imitating beautiful sounds like a human voice or musical instrument. In an apparent incongruity based on their disagreement in other areas, both schools refer to buzzing as a good practice in acquiring better sound quality. For example, Jacob says that mouthpiece buzzing, quote, focuses the mind and the lips, end quote, as well as accelerator the musical connection between players' thoughts and their lips tissue. Joseph Harnum, in Sound the Trumpet, How to Blow Your Own Horn, provides a somewhat different perspective that represents the teaching school, teaching different ways to buzz with the mouthpiece. True to his beliefs, the lessons only address the physical aspects of making the buzzing. Both authors, however, believe that good sounds come from regular practicing. Again, I will keep the mouthpiece selection on the buzzing, so I want to explore the building embouchure. Because this is a subject that produces remarkable dissimilarity on how the two methodological schools suggest it can be best achieved. Traditional theories on how to best achieve good embouchure focus mainly in facial muscle and mouthpiece location. However, in recent decades, brass pedagogues such as Marquis Sienkiewicz and Gabriel Casone have introduced a broad array of concepts that involve the position of the facial muscle, efficient buzzing, the balanced position between embouchure, function, and breathing, to support the supporting body muscles, and pedal tones practice. The technical school possesses a large canon of texts from past eras, with for example, technical study by Herbert Clark, published in 1912, Lips Flexibility, and by Walter Smith, published in 1935, and Advanced Lip Flexibility by Charles Collins, published in 1980, as a few prominent examples. They suggest repetitive drill to enhance and acquire a robust and steady embouchure that includes the practice of long tones, slur intervals, tessitura, scales, and others. These types of drills were published by many other eminent trumpet players who saw that this method was a way to replicate in his student their own professional success. In contrast, there is less focus on embouchure and fewer methodological variation emanating from the conceptual school. Some methods were outlined by Arnold Jacob in Brass Singers, in which he said that one forms, quote, the embouchure based on how you think it's going to vibrate, or educate your embouchure by playing music and not by logical or peripheral thoughts of any kind, end quote. Jacob suggests that by playing music over time, facial muscle make the necessary adjustment to acquire a shape and function necessary to generate good sound. Although his ideas have been used in the academy from the 1980s onward, he admits that they are not for everybody and do not always resolve embouchure problems in advanced students. Philip Farkas analyzes embouchure problems in the art of brass playing, published in 1962, and after suggesting solutions for some of them, he concluded that, quote, there are many problems to cover, but luckily no player has all of them, end quote. He hoped embouchure problems could be resolved by reading the 2 pages he devotes to the subject and implementing his recommendation. Farkas analyzes subjects which not much brass literature addresses: skill, intuitive manner, natural playing, and the instinctive act. Finally, he suggests that players who, with too many problems, should drop the entire musical project in favor of a recurring. In 2005, Frank Campos introduced a new idea from the conceptual school in which he spoke about the balance need within facial muscle to produce a steady embouchure, which he called isometric embouchure. This concept emanated from a long-standing discussion in the field. In 1977, Dale Olsen published an article in the ETU journal correlating scientific writing with music, in which the topic of isometric was mentioned as one of the many positive non-playing physical exercise for brass players. In contrast, 3 years later, the same journal published a review of the lecture by Ray Trisar, in which he argued against isometric exercises in the mouth area, such as the common practice of holding a pencil in the mouth, unless precisely the same muscles are employed when playing the trumpet. He said these exercises might stiffen embouchure muscles, and that players should avoid wasting time on muscle gathering exercises and instead merely focus on playing music. You should start playing music from the first note, he said. However, Campos' description of the isometric approach are compelling, as he thoroughly explained balance embouchure and its relationship with the low, medium, and high register, suggests important links between the technical conceptual school and clarify physical techniques in their relations to musical sound during performance. The performing skill, I'm going to skip the pedal tone, so the performing skill, Campos introduced in his book Trumpet Skill the concept of nature of skill, a concept that by which he analyzed from various perspectives the complexities of the student learning process. He claimed that 6 elements of skill exist in the performance arts: efficiency, automaticity, timing, knowledge, adaptability, and capacity. He also framed the learning process with a provocative question, wondering if the ability to express oneself artistically is determined more by genetic predisposition, or whether practicing hard and desire play a large role. He also makes an interesting postulation about the transfer of learning, claiming that the skill is acquired through a transfer of the learned material from practice to performance. And the greater the transfer in the early and middle stages, the quicker one will complete acquisition of the skill. Capo's vision shed light on the dynamic that characterizes performers from both schools. Skilled technical performers play more technically, and skilled conceptual players play more musically. I incorporated the conceptual element. This is important because it's related with my product, that is the curriculum. The recent publication shed light on this complex scenario, suggesting in a more clear and dynamic form the way to incorporate conceptual elements into the daily practice, making this topic a valuable element in the suggested curriculum model. For example, Jacobs suggests that musicians, quote, should talk with your instrument as when you talk with your voice. Don't ask questions, but instead make statements. Enter. By saying that, he introduces in the brass school the concept of telling stories, just like a storyteller. Jacobs was aware of students' lack of ear training as one of the causes of the difficulties in musical expression, and he suggests music school administrations to include a formalized program of ear training for brass players in their musical curriculum. On the other hand, and representing the romantic music tradition, Frank Schubert, years ago, on his song cycle Winter Rise, published posthumously in 1828, applies the conceptual school using the piano rhythm to express the moods of the poet. In a representative way, the piano supplies great variety of creatures and active objects like the rushing storm, the crying wind, the water under the ice, birds singing, and others. Notwithstanding brass instruments are essentially monophonic, they are capable of portraying characters and human emotion, as Schubert did with the polyphonic piano. Based on this evidence, I believe that it would be valuable to add into the curriculum a series of coursework aiming to discover or identify characters in the musical piece from the universal repertoire, identify musical elements that might portray human emotion, places, epochs, nature, surrealism, improvise music that might portray the previous elements, and improvise melodies that can depict characters. My claim is that balancing the time allotted to the technique practice with the time allotted to the practice of musical concepts must provide students performance in both realms, technical and musical. The condition to succeed on this claim is met by including conceptual elements as topics in the curriculum of conservatories and universities, and monitoring and assessing during the learning process. So the next point is the trumpet method. The technical and conceptual school-based teaching method on a combination of personal experience and a synthesis of ideas from different schools and authors. Aware of these phenomena, contemporary authors of trumpet methodology and teaching literature are more careful to include a comprehensive collection of references in their publications, which include pedagogical material from both schools. After assessing trumpet method by renowned trumpet player from the last 40 years under the scope of technical and conceptual school, I suggest a list of trumpet method and books as a valuable addition to the curriculum of the University of Chile and the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile. The material is organized under the topics of method collections, apply studies for developing fundamentals, pedagogical texts, and products designed to work out embouchure muscles. For the purpose of this lecture, I will focus on the latter since I consider it is one of the most recent contributions to the learning process. So products designed to work out bassin and embouchure muscles. The daily practice requires supporting activities to extend its length and quality. Embouchure needs to overcome the fatigue and swelling caused by daily routine exercise that can contribute to build a robust set of muscles. The idea came from comparing the high levels of musical performance with high level of athletic excellence. Both use muscles that support those involved in the main action, and both need a method to enable to warm up efficiently and properly. For example, we have the visualizer. And the first one, visualizer, they are designed to reach quality sound by buzzing the lips in a special mouthpiece made of a rim and a hanger. Its use encompasses several aspects of the embouchure, including the buzz, need to release the tightness of the facial muscles, correcting the aiming of the airstream, acquiring facial muscular symmetry, keeping the same sound quality on the verse tessitura, and achieving effortless multi-tongue attack. Some visualizer, I'll do it here. The one that I like the most of them is that one, the ATV, the Advanced Training Visualizer by Warburton, because I have it here. The difference with the other one is that this one has a wall here. So in this wall you can produce a back pressure. So one part of the lip that could not be buzzing properly, it's going to be stimulated because it will be free. For example, I have it here. And I can feel that something is weird. I can twist a little bit and putting pressure through that wall in a different area of the lips. And by doing that, I can get the better sound and get full buzz of the lips. So it's really interesting to work with this, and I've been working this for 2 months, and you can get a lot of buzzing from there. The other idea is that it has a hole here where you can really blow through this part, through the backboard. So the idea of aiming right there is presented also. So you can try to get in the middle of the mouthpiece. The PTE, the Personal Embouchure Training Exerciser, is a device designed by Warburton Music Products to strengthen the support muscle of the embouchure. This innovation follows the theory behind the whole idea of holding a pencil in the mouth, published for the first time by Dale Olson in 1977. The main improvement made on the pencil concept is that the coined shape of one of the extremes of the PTE allows players to work out with opposite pressure placed in the orbicularis oris muscle. So I have that device, not so big. So he's offering that idea. So instead of person here, you can work outside. And they suggest to give just 2 or 3 minutes to get that sensation. And through the same thing, you are getting that isometrical muscles, because all the muscles will be working on this area. And the idea of holding the pencil is like this. Just keep it like that. It is something very easy to do, but you cannot last more than 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, at the beginning it's really easy. But after a while, all your muscles start falling down. So I want to show you a kind of movie, which are the muscles involved in this practice. So we have the orbicularis iris, which is the main one that make the lips. The quadraturus labis superioris, which are the up one, those kind of, and the zygomaticus, which is one of then that we cannot see here, but that one. Actually, those are just names. The buccinators, which are the lateral, who are here, and the quadratus inferiores, which are the ones who are on the bottom part. So the other one, the other devices are the bassing. The most important device for bassing is the mouthpiece itself. Bad performance habits and overpressure on the embouchure stiffen the natural bassing zone of the lips. The industry responds to this threat by creating two types of devices. One of them designed to relieve pressure by bassing in the trumpet, and the other to relieve pressure outside the trumpet, as you can see in the picture. The one designed out of pressure, to bass out of the trumpet, is this one, which is called the Bullseye by Burton, which is more designed for last minute when you are in rush to performance or whatever, and you're driving the car. It gives you the same, not the same, but similar sense as you were blowing your own horn. And yeah, you start doing bassing in your mouthpiece. The other one is one that was created by Mario Guarnieri, which is this one, with this piece that you attach next to the trumpet. The other one you practice with your own trumpet, but on this one suggests, it has some holes here where you can work a little bit with the back pressure. So you have a hole in different sides that allow you to. You can work out that with that back pressure. But the more amazing and the most inexpensive is this clip that you find here, the bass clip by Mark DiCaudio. It was released like 2 or 3 years ago. And with this also, you can bass in your instrument, you can play, it sounds like cornetto, but the idea is to those two ones, you allow that the pressure that normally comes back from the instrument is released through here, and it doesn't get in your mouth or your bassing. So the bassing keep going like one of like Sikovich said, let it go, let it go. You just can't feel that. You don't get that sense of playing back. It doesn't. I don't play so bad. So so after you play a little bit, 5 minutes, you get that sense of blowing out. It's something really comfortable. I love this. It was cheaper though. $12 plus shipping and handle, $20. And $80. So the next one that I think is important to speak a little about is the facial flex. It's a device that doesn't belong to the realm of a pedagogical brass like the other one. This is designed by the cosmetic industry who make this device for avoid the natural aging effect, like losing facial control of your facial muscle. So in a way equivalent to tennis players need of a special workouts for muscle of the right or left arm, brass players need the special workouts of their facial muscles. Robert Civiletti suggests this device called facial flex to work out the orbicularis iris muscle and the mouth and the 30 muscle groups in the facial and the neck. The device is based on the principle of dynamic resistance training that strengthens the and tone muscles of the face, chin, and neck. Yeah, this is the device like here. So you just put it, okay, and do that kind of work. It's very tonify, it really tonify your muscle, and you can smile better, you know, because after that, you know, oh my God, how easy it was to smile, you know, because sometimes we're like very good. But you use this one, and you, it's very good for that thing. Oh, don't get scared for what you're going to see, because it's cheek will show her muscles. Those are the muscles that are involved. You see the same on the other one. But what is interesting here is that you can see those muscles also of the neck that are really important when we are blowing, because we always are concerned about this muscle. But those muscles that go here, going even to the muscle of your stomach. Okay. So now the online material beneficial to learning process. The easy access to educational material through the internet has been changing the traditional teaching process worldwide. Pedagogical material and individual lessons on the trumpet are easily accessed by students, professionals, and self-learners. Moreover, trumpet lessons via the internet offer an exciting possibility to take lessons with a esteemed professor from whom a student can experience first-hand pedagogical trends. Today's technology allows students to have an international experience that could shed light on the dimensions of their musical talent. On the other hand, I recommend discretion in following pre-recorded professors' advice, since they recommend formula that might not be applicable to students' particularities. Students should use these materials as a complement to the permanent guidance of their professors. Too much information and excessive suggestions for the particular problem might ignore the easiest way to resolve it. My suggested selection of online pedagogical material is grouped under Trumpet Masterclass by prominent trumpet artists, orchestral repertoire master classes, trumpet lessons, tutorials, musical genres for trumpet like jazz, mariachis, and Latin music, artists performing, trumpet resources, and all of them under the platform of YouTube. You can find all of this material in YouTube. So conclusions for this chapter is that the conceptual school, while historically a dominant force in applied studies, is somewhat not easy to incorporate into a syllabus or even a lecture document about the syllabus like this one. What was in the past commonly used in performing practice as well as the learning process in the arts became obsolete at the beginning of the 20th century with the arrival of the technological society, which saw in the technique a new way to envision the world. It is very likely that pedagogues and students from more comfortable with either the conceptual or technical school would not even be interested in what this syllabus have to outline or what this document is trying to suggest. Rather, the role of this syllabus or lecture document may simply just suggest a pedagogical approach aiming to balance these two forces that have been polarizing the musical learning process for the last 60 years. As a matter of fact, important pedagogical issues and topics from both poles, previously treated in publications, are bringing maturity to brass pedagogy. Academic institutions that teach trumpet annually also support conferences, competitions, and summits. Periodically, they are publishing pedagogical articles, books, music reviews, and interviews in magazines, journals, and web pages, demonstrating that the learning process is permanently evolving and no school can claim supremacy. On the other hand, nowadays multimedia outlets can offer a wide variety of approaches to the pedagogical process, from trumpet players who post in the internet brass performances from different musical genres representing both the conceptual and the technical school. The topics presented today represent important new ideas and concepts to be included in the suggested curriculum update for the University of Chile and the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile. According to the bibliography of books on trumpet teaching and methodology, the trumpet method presented here are considered the most influential in the trumpet pedagogy. On the other hand, the dual vision of the technical and the conceptual school has clarified boundaries for the use of pedagogical tools during the teaching process. Furthermore, since both schools develop skills from opposite areas of the human brain and learners usually exhibited different degrees of skills, professors should be aware of which tools contribute better to the learning process of each student. In addition, the products designed to work out the embouchure muscles and lips buzzing are non-musical tools that will be suggested in the master trumpet curriculum for both universities. Finally, because of the lack of time and the extension of applied studies that covered psychological issues like stress, anxiety, mental relaxation, and internet technologies designed for peer-to-peer tutoring, this document cannot include those topics as part of the curriculum since they belong to different sciences. Instead, it will suggest literature that can help to deepen these fields, hoping that the readers can get most out of the learning process and for their own involvement as a performer. So, the last part, the suggested model of trumpet curriculum. This is a university level recommendation aiming to update part of the curriculum program of the University of Chile and the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile. Based on the previous evidence and findings presented in the lecture document, the suggested model proposes variants on topics of objective, contents, methodology, evaluation, incorporating conceptual elements, general considerations, and references. This annual model will also suggest updated coursework based on fundamentals, daily routine, trumpet studies, and repertoire, trumpet ensemble, orchestral excerpt, jazz, and the creation of art of work. I think these are the more important concepts that I want to include in the curricula, for which I was doing this research. So, well, if you have any questions, do it now. Or that's the building of the University of Chile that is in downtown Chile. It's where I work. I work in the top there. And this is the Pontifical University Catholic of Chile. When visitant Professor Cubier visited us in 2007. Well, I would like to thank to my committee, Professor Mark Walter, Professor Mark Hitchcock, and Professor Gross. A special thanks to Professor Hitchcock, who helped me to lead this document. And I'm really great. I really appreciate that because it's something that is going to be really important for me. And after many years of teaching trumpet and music in Chile, this time of thinking what I was doing and what is going on, I wouldn't be possible without doing this degree of doctoral degree. Otherwise, I would be following the same thing. I feel that I'm really revitalized by this experience of 4 years here in the University of Oregon. And thanks to the university also. Also, I have to thank my university and my orchestra who gave me permission to do this long program. So thank you.